The FRMG was created a couple years ago, about 2012, in response to some FAA requirements. And it was more of a reactive program. And in reactive, we were mostly responding to fatigue reports, emails, texts, and looking for systemic issues or just any issue and getting back to the company and trying to fix whatever issue that was. Since then, since the 2015 CBA, we've turned it into more of a proactive. And what it is that we now will look at the pairings before they even get to the PSIT, and we will look at it from a fatigue aspect. We will look at it two ways, subjective and objective. The objective, there are two programs out there that we used, one with ALPA and one with the company, and we will use we take all the pairings and run them through both those biomathematical software. And they will highlight problem areas in the fatigue area for all those pairings. And the company will look through their programming, we will look through our programming. And during the week or during that weekend when the prelims come out, the PSIT will look at it subjectively. After that's done, we will gather the worst pairings that have fatigue issues and work and go back to the company and talk to them about making the changes for that. The company has to make the changes if we have data on that. And data is either gathered from previous FERC pairings or disputed pairings, or if we have a number of fatigue reports, that could be data used to make changes on the pairings before we even start the build week. What's great is when the company finally came to the table on this and started working this pre-PSIT vetting process, they were offering pairings that we should change for fatigue. And that's a big paradigm shift, a different change for the company that's very welcome for us when they make recommendations to make changes to pairings that they believe are fatiguing. If after that process it goes to the PSIT and build week and there are any pairings afterwards that need to be looked at from a fatiguing aspect or a disputed pairing, they will come back to our department. And in that case, we can do two options according to the CBA. We can either fix it on the spot or we can gather data. And when you gather data on these pairings, it takes time. In the beginning with the CBA, we did not have all the tools in place. And it was kind of like the analogy I was talking to him about is, hey, we've got this great car. It's awesome. Here it is in the garage. You open up the garage. You look at the car. It's missing doors. It's missing an engine. It's missing tires. Beautiful car. So over the years, we've slowly put in engines. We put in all the requirements to make that car run. And the company has those tools now to really help us out to gather the data and look at it very objectively. And initially, when one of our tools we had was an actigraph, it's similar to a Fitbit. The first ones we got weren't very good. The ones we have now are very good, but still not as accurate. And when we asked the pilots to gather data on these pairings that we have disputed or considered fatiguing, we need to gather at least 20 data sets. And that's very difficult because we're asking pilots in the very beginning of the month if they're going to fly this pairing. And as you know, the pairings change over the month and the pilot might not be flying it. If the pilot is in a foreign domicile, we have to get the actigraph and the paperwork to that pilot in a foreign domicile. And that can be very difficult, especially if it's in China lately with tariffs and issues getting through customs. But we need a minimum of 20 data sets. We thought we were pretty good on a recent data set collection. We sent out probably about 23 to 25 data sets, actigraphs, and in the end we only came back with 18. We talked to the company about that. Was 18 enough? And they said yes, because it was very good data. Out of those data sets, different things happen. There's revisions. Some of the actigraphs didn't work, and then some of the pilots had issues with filling out the data for that. Once all that data is gathered, the company in-house looks at the data and is able to look at that and usually make a decision of whether we need to create a FERC parameter. If they are unable to do that, we send it to two different sets of scientists. The company has their scientists, we have our set of scientists, and we send the data to them for them to analyze. And then they'll come back and give us the information on that. But for the most part, we've been able to make decisions before it even goes to the scientists. And what we've done is we've created FERC parameters that have been the guidelines and are put into actually the company software, and the pairing should never be created again. But what's interesting, the DNA of that pairing may be showing up in a different domicile, and it's up to us and the company and through those systems to recognize that that pairing is no longer viable.